Welcome to the Alaska Weather Show. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan, coming to you from the National Weather Service on this Sunday, February 20th, 2022. And we bring you this show each evening as the result of a unique partnership with Alaska Public Media, and we thank you for watching. If you'd like additional weather information, you can always go online to weather.gov, and it'll show you a map of the continental U.S. with Alaska and Hawaii in the lower right. And you point and click on the map, and it allows you to see the latest forecast, watches, warnings, advisories, and much more information across the country. In fact, right now, there are winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories in effect from the northern Rockies across the northern plains into the upper Mississippi Valley, with the next winter storm system there affecting the lower 48. But closer to home, we have our own storm system out in the Bering that's going to be bringing in clement weather to the west coast and spreading it inland. Bering low is lifting now just north of the central Aleutians, and it will press a frontal system through the west and southwest coast into the interior as we go through early week. Blizzard warnings are in effect now along the west coast, including the southern and western portions of the Seward Peninsula, as well as from Kotzebue up along the outer reaches there of the Chukchi Sea. Precipitation and warmer air is also going to surge out ahead of this front up along the east side of the Alaska Peninsula, up through Cook Inlet later on Monday into Monday night. And this is going to trigger some heavier snow further up the Susitna Valley around Talkeetna northward up to Denali Park entrance there. Locally, a foot of snow could fall in that region as we go through Monday afternoon through Tuesday morning. And overall, we are expecting above normal temperatures across much of the state into early March, with areas of enhanced precipitation, especially south central and central interior locations. Quick tour of the FAA webcams this afternoon in Kotzebue. Increasing clouds, temperature 2 below there in the early afternoon. You can see the clouds thickening out ahead of that Bering system. Nome already there on the right side of the screen is getting light snow, increasing wind, and they're going to see blizzard conditions there developing shortly, if not already at this time. And as we go further off toward the south, Dutch Harbor had a high wind warning that has since expired. The low is lifted north of the central Aleutian, so winds will be tapering, or at least coming down there. Dutch Harbor, where they've also had some light showers, 42 degrees. And then further up the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island there, increasing clouds and mild. Temperature 45 degrees. You see those clouds off to the west-southwest there. Those are increasing in advance of the frontal system that's attached to that low in the Bering Sea. And then finally, getting up there into the Susitna Valley, Talkeetna has cloudy skies. Those clouds will thicken up, and more snow is on the way on Monday into Monday night. In fact, some areas could pick up several inches of snow as we are anticipating some rather messy conditions across portions of South Central just as this warmer air arrives. But further north in the cold air, it'll be in the form of snow. And at least the Panhandle's getting a little break here for the late weekend today and into Monday. Juneau is dry and on the cool side, 36 degrees. But even the system, the frontal system that'll be working its way into this west side of the state here, will eventually spread some moisture along the North Gulf as we get into Monday night and Tuesday. So here are the current advisories and warnings. We have wind chill advisories all along the Arctic coast from Point Hope through Utqiagvik to Katovik, and that's just tonight into the day, Monday. We have blizzard warnings along the west coast, south of Point Hope there, including Kotzebue, and as well as on the west side and southern side of the Seward Peninsula, including Nome, as well as all of St. Lawrence Island. Look for snow and blowing snow and blizzard conditions developing there tonight into early Monday morning. And then across the western interior, Bettles, Ambler, southwestward through Galena, all the way down to Grayling, Hooper Bay, all along Norton Sound there. Winter weather advisories as that moisture pushes eastward inland. That's going to create areas of snow and blowing snow and even some mixed precipitation there down, especially near Norton Sound, as some of the warmer air will get a little further north there. And then we have a winter storm watch for the Susitna Valley, particularly Talkeetna northward up toward the front portion of the Alaska Range. As much as 8 to 16 inches of snow could fall between Monday afternoon and Tuesday morning. There is also a high wind watch in effect for the Anchorage Bowl area for Monday afternoon into Monday night. Especially the eastern hills could see wind gusts as high as 75 miles an hour as we get those turn-again arm winds in advance of that frontal system. And then finally, later Monday night and into Tuesday, a winter storm watch has been issued for the northern Gulf Coast from Yakutat on over toward Pelican. They are in the outer northwest portion of the panhandle because we expect that moisture to be working its way east. There could be snow and or a mix of some precipitation. So we see on Monday precipitation on the left side of the screen, the biggest concentration along south of the Alaska Range, along the east side of the Alaska Peninsula, ahead of this frontal system, but it also wraps all the way on up there into the northwest part of the state, as well as focusing in there on Nome and just east of Kotzebue. By Tuesday, the precipitation diminishes in the west, but it begins to spread eastward along the northern Gulf, especially from Prince William Sound toward Yakutat, and that again is why that winter storm watch has been issued for Yakutat, the north central Gulf Coast, into around Pelican on the outer northwest coast of the Panhandle for Tuesday. And winds will be strongest Monday afternoon across the northern Bering through the Bering Strait, lower Chukchi Sea, wind gust 50 miles an hour easily, locally higher winds there just northwest of Kotzebue, and that's why they have the blizzard conditions. Also, winds will be getting stronger there at the mouth of Cook Inlet, as well as Turnagain Arm, as these winds will be picking up out ahead of that front as it advances eastward. So we can see that front arcing there up into the Alaska Peninsula. The low is back north of Adak there, just having passed the central Aleutians. And that low will continue to track and elongate northward during the day on Monday, though it will begin to weaken. The frontal boundary will be pushed north and westward into the western and southwest interior. And that's going to spread more moisture across the state. Here it is this afternoon. You can see that low, a 978 millibar low. And it's going to take a track to the northeast, and the occluded front will push its way into the west side of the state and push slowly eastward across the Alaska Peninsula tonight and into the day on Monday. Little triple point low, a weak one forms over the Alaska Peninsula, and there's going to be warmer air surging northward as we go through Monday afternoon and evening up Cook Inlet. That's going to help feed the snows there through the upper Talkeetna area, the Susitna Valley. And then on Tuesday, the system will have moisture areas of light snow, or at least lighter snow across the interior, with a lingering trough and frontalness there along the Gulf Coast, back along the Aleutian chain. Lows will be chilly in the Panhandle, teens and 20s. Steady temperatures, 20s there across much of south central. Monday afternoon, readings will begin to creep upward, getting the lower 40s, Kodiak, King Salmon, southwestward. Tuesday morning, chilly again in the Panhandle, down into the teens, low 20s. But temperatures coming upward, staying above freezing Anchorage area for Monday night into Tuesday morning. And then Anchorage could likely be in the 40s here come Tuesday afternoon, with 40s likely. Kodiak Island could even be a bit warmer than that. Across the north, coldest readings along the Arctic coast, north slope areas, 20s to 30s below. And as we go into the day on Monday, warmer air has already noticed temperature at Nome, 36, getting above freezing there in the Seward Peninsula with that front. The milder air will press eastward up the Yukon Valley, so that by Tuesday we could see some temperatures approaching freezing. Fairbanks westward, certainly back up around freezing there at Nome. And across the southwest, we anticipate temperatures to be rising above freezing through the Kuskokwim, Bristol Bay area. That's by morning, and then afternoon across much of the region above freezing, 30s and even some lower 40s. By Tuesday morning, temperatures really don't fall much across the southwest, especially the interior. And Tuesday afternoon highs could once again be in the 40s. Can't even rule out an isolated near 50-degree reading Kodiak Island. So see that warm air creep all the way upward along the Cook Inlet. So the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook provided by the National Weather Service Climate Prediction Center, February 26th through March 2nd, shows above normal temperatures across the entire state, centered on the southwest interior, especially near and just west-northwest of the Alaska Range. This would bring us at times temperatures in the 30s and some 40s even possible, especially the coastal areas of the southwest and south central regions. And precipitation is expected to average above normal, especially south central interior on up to just north of the Yukon River.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Let's dive into your flight weather here for early in the week, Monday and Tuesday. Main weather feature is low pressure in the central Bering Monday morning. That will elongate northward up through the Bering Strait, lower Chukchi Sea, and then gradually weaken. We'll see a frontal system working its way, arcing up into the lower Chukchi Sea, into the interior of the state, and trailing down through the Alaska Peninsula. And as this front works its way eastward, there will be a weak triple point low developed there, the western and northern Gulf on Tuesday. But in the meantime, widespread IFR conditions along the west coast into the interior along this frontal boundary down through the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, up through Cook Inlet. Monday afternoon, there'll be another push of precipitation, warmer air up through the Alaska Peninsula ahead of this front on up into Cook Inlet and the Susitna Valley, and that will cause IFR conditions to spread eastward into the western half of the Gulf, with IFR conditions continuing there along the west coast and especially along and south of the Brooks Range. Tuesday morning, expect widespread IFR conditions across much of the mainland along and south of the Brooks Range, and especially along and south of the Alaska Range into the Gulf coast. And then on Tuesday afternoon, we do see areas of IFR diminish and become more pockets there in the interior, but we expect IFR conditions to spread further east along the Gulf Coast into the northern Panhandle, as well as remain along the southwest coast out into the Bering and especially the south side of the Alaska Peninsula. Pass conditions on Monday, Anaktuvik Pass will see MVFR conditions become IFR as moisture with that front spreads eastward. Same thing with Adigan Pass, MVFR becoming IFR. Lake Clark and Merrill will be socked in with IFR conditions on Monday, and look for Rainy Pass to go from MVFR to IFR during the morning and certainly by afternoon. Windy Pass will also see MVFR conditions give way to IFR conditions, especially the south side of that pass. And Isabel will manage to hold on to MVFR conditions during the day on Monday, as Mentasta should be able to hold on to VFR conditions there in the far east. Otherwise, further south and west, Tanita Pass will become MVFR, going to IFR as that moisture creeps northeastward from up out of the western Gulf. And Portage Pass will also see MVFR conditions become IFR. In the Panhandle and in the north, Chilkoot and White will enjoy yet another day of VFR conditions after an extended period of drier weather here through the weekend and the beginning of the week. Freezing levels highest there out through the southwest, creeping upwards to 2,000 feet on the south side of Norton Sound, 4,000 feet over the southwest interior, and approaching 6,000 feet Kodiak Island. A surge of moisture riding up along a frontal boundary, pushing slowly eastward across the Alaska Peninsula. This area of precipitation will create some considerable moderate icing potential, especially Monday afternoon, between 6,000 and 16,000 feet. We have a ridge of high pressure extending from the North Pacific through the Gulf up into the mainland, and you can see this anticyclonic flow to the jet stream. Strongest winds 130 knots on the west side of the state, upwards to 130 knots from the southwest, and then turning northwesterly across the Panhandle. 100 to 120 knots there in British Columbia. 9,000 foot mid-level winds. We see broad area of stronger winds across the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, from 50 to as high as 75 knots, and a broad area of 45 to 50 knot winds from the northwest part of the state along the western coast, and dropping down to 3,000 feet. We see that low pressure circulation there out in the central Bering, and a broad area of 45 to 55 knot winds along the west side of the state up through the Bering Strait and lower Chukchi Sea. Also a wind max in the lower levels of 65 knots there just to the south and southwest of Kodiak Island and the Alaska Peninsula on the North Pacific side. And as a result, we will expect a large area of considerable moderate turbulence from the Brooks Range all through the western half of the state, running down the length of the Alaska Peninsula into the Aleutians, with the greatest likelihood of severe turbulence there right along and ahead of that slow-moving frontal system, just on the east side of the Alaska Peninsula on up through Shelikof Strait there near Kodiak Island, as a stronger wind max will be riding up along the frontal boundary Monday afternoon into Monday evening. So be aware for that potential of severe turbulence between the surface and 4,000 feet. There's your flight weather. If you get out, have a safe flight.
Just as the sun is part of weather on Earth, it also affects weather in space. The sun creates solar wind by steadily releasing a flow of plasma particles in all directions around it. Sometimes the sun gives off a flash of light and X-rays. This is known as a solar flare. When massive bursts of particles explode into space, we call it a coronal mass ejection, or CME. When a CME is directed toward Earth, it hits the magnetosphere, the magnetic field around our planet that protects us. If the storm is large, we may even get to enjoy a light display in the sky called the auroras. In space, satellites may be damaged, and astronauts should take cover. On Earth, people do not feel any physical effects. We may lose electricity in some areas, polar flights may be rerouted, and satellite services may be disrupted. While these situations aren't ideal, they are rare and fixable. This is why we will continue to study the sun and its interactions with Earth and the solar system.
Longing for more space, open skies, and exotic travel? Then look up, about 30 to 600 miles straight up, at the ionosphere, Earth's interface to space. Nestled far above the clouds but below outer space, this little understood destination invites you to explore its many features. Experience both the weather from Earth and the weather from space. Marvel at the ballet of radio waves and navigation signals, like GPS, leaping through this particle paradise. Sit back, relax, and take in the aurora, some satellites, and the International Space Station as they sail by. And you'll want your camera handy for one of the region's signature features, bright and colorful air glow. This daily show is made possible by the ionosphere's own swarming charged particles, because that's what the ionosphere is. It's all charged particles. During the day, enjoy the sea of particles, freshly energized by the sun. As the sun sets, this particle party relaxes and the air glow thins. Our quieter nightlife lets you gaze into clearer skies. The ionosphere is in constant motion, an amazing effect of space weather. Don't miss when solar storms rain down. The storm separates the particles even more, making this colorful region delightfully more dense in some places and stunningly sparse in others. And don't forget about storms from Earth below. Your weather from back home also stirs up this one-of-a-kind destination. Experience the unique beauty of every season, as changes in Earth's atmosphere, daily and annually, can create pressure waves, changing the ionosphere's shape and density. Venture to the equator, where our particles are packed in lush and thick. Cruise along a magnetic field line and see how the ionosphere's charged material also interacts with Earth's own magnetic field. Don't miss the superhighway of particles zipping out to space and back down to the planet. This unpredictable parade of charged particles can help you unplug and unwind. This is because the crowd of particles can garble the radio and satellite communications from home. The ionosphere welcomes you to discover more about this little-known region. After all, once you've explored this interface to space, who knows how much farther you'll be able to go.
When a star, bigger and more massive than the Sun, runs out of fuel at the end of its life, its core collapses while the outer layers are blown off in a supernova explosion. What's left behind depends on the star's original mass. A star roughly 10 to 20 times our Sun leaves behind a neutron star. A more massive star becomes a black hole. Unlike black holes, neutron stars are directly observable, usually as pulsars, the lighthouses of the cosmos. Discovered 50 years ago, they are the densest observable objects in the universe. Neutron stars compress up to twice the Sun's mass into a city-sized sphere. Matter is packed so tightly that a teaspoon of neutron star interior would weigh more than 1 billion tons on Earth. Still, the nature of the ultra-dense matter in the cores of neutron stars is unknown. Because neutron stars pack so much mass into such a tiny volume, they produce gravity strong enough to bend the light they emit, distorting their appearance in a way that enables the mass and size of the star to be measured. Scientists cannot reproduce the extreme conditions in and around neutron stars on Earth. They must look into the galaxy to answer decades-old questions about extreme matter and gravity. NASA's Neutron Star Interior Composition Explorer mission, or NISA, will make X-ray observations of neutron stars from its perch on the International Space Station. It will give astronomers more insight into these mysterious objects, helping determine what is under their surface. A multi-purpose mission, NISA includes a technology demonstration called Sextant. It will analyze NISA's observations to validate the use of rapidly rotating neutron stars as navigation beacons for travel in deep space throughout the solar system and beyond.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Well, it's now time to look at the sea ice edge as we wrap up the show with the marine weather segment. And the most important thing is with the frontal system that's working its way up through the southwest and west coast, it's going to be pushing up along the Alaska Peninsula and into the interior. Winds ahead of it, southeast and then south and southwest will push the ice northward. Maybe initially a little westward there in Bristol Bay, but otherwise warmer air is going to be creeping up into Bristol Bay, temperatures getting above freezing, as well as on the other side of the Alaska Peninsula, creeping upward through Cook Inlet, especially as we go through Monday and into Tuesday. There'll be temperatures as warm as the 40s working their way up these areas. So for Monday along the southeast panhandle, it's going to be a colder offshore flow out of the north. 25 knots. There could be some gusts as high as 55 knots in the vicinity of Petersburg. Waves generally running around 5 feet in the inner channels. Outer coastal areas look for northeasterly winds. Gustavus down through Craig, 20 knots, waves 7 to 8 feet. Another generally dry way, but cool temperatures. And then by Tuesday, winds will try to turn back around to the southeast and south through the inner channels at 10 to 20 knots, waves 2-3 feet, maybe as much as 4 feet in Lynn Canal, and then areas on the outer coast will be turning south-southeast at around 20 to 25 knots, though a bit stronger as you get west of Yakutat to 35 knots out of the east. Across the northwest Gulf, winds will generally be out of the east-southeast 25 to 30 knots off of the Kenai, but at the entrance of Cook Inlet, look for 40-knot easterly winds, waves building there to 10 feet. And on Tuesday, winds out over the Gulf will generally be in the 25-knot range out of the south-southeast off of the Kenai and Kodiak Island, but as high as 35 knots there on the north end of the Gulf south of Cordova. Prince William Sound east winds 30 knots with waves running about 6 feet, and 25-knot easterly winds there at the entrance of Cook Inlet. Further south, across the southwest, Kodiak Island will see winds out of the south-southeast at around 20 knots, picking up to 30 knots as you run down the North Pacific side of the peninsula. And then areas Bristol Bay westward, east to southeast winds 20 to 25 knots. On Tuesday, winds across most of the region will be east-southeast in the 20 to 25 knot range. Waves 10 to 12 feet in the open waters of the North Pacific on the east side of the peninsula, and as high as 7 feet as you get north of False Pass, Cold Bay. on the Bering side. And then looking at the Aleutian chain, the eastern half will see winds out of the southwest around 30 knots on Monday. Waves 15 to 18 feet on the North Pacific side, 10 to maybe as high as 15 feet on the Bering side. And on Tuesday, winds in the eastern Aleutians, southeast at around 25 to 30 knots around Unalaska. But once you get from Nokolsky westward through Atka, look for 40-knot gales from the southeast and waves picking up into the 15 to 20-foot range on the North Pacific side and generally 12 to 15 feet on the Bering side. And across the west coast and southwest coast, winds will be upwards to 40 knots from the south. That's going to cause the ice to want to retreat northward a bit. We'll see 40-knot winds there, St. Paul, St. George, with waves as high as 15 to near 20 feet. Tuesday, the winds come down a bit, still keeping a southerly to southeasterly component at around 20 to 25 knots. And then for the Arctic coast, winds will be out of the east-southeast 25 to 30 knots from around Point Lay all the way through Kaktovik. And then areas of the lower Chukchi Sea, Bering Strait, will be from the southeast and south 40-knot gales. And on Tuesday, winds will be generally from the south-southeast from Point Lay through the eastern Arctic coast at anywhere from 15 to as high as 25 knots, and we expect those winds to be southeasterly out of Kotzebue Sound 25 knots and out of the south-southeast 25 knots north side of St. Lawrence Island and the west side of the Seward Peninsula. So here's the situation overnight into early Monday morning. Low pressure over the central Bering will elongate and weaken as it lifts northward on Monday. The occluded front will work its way inland. Blizzard conditions tonight into at least Monday morning. Portions of the Seward Peninsula and Kotzebue up along the lower Chukchi Sea coast. Secondary low develops and another surge of warmer air will be riding up through the Cook Inlet, producing some heavier snowfall in the northern Susitna Valley. That does it for the show. Thank you for watching, and be sure to join us again tomorrow night.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.